How's it going, guys, and welcome back to BL3's Forgotten, the series where I take a look at underused and not often talked about pieces of gear to determine whether or not they deserve to be remembered within the modern meta of the game or should be left behind and forgotten. And today we are taking a look at the frequency. If you'd like to farm a frequency for yourself, you're going to want to fast travel over to the Obsidian Forest over on Gehenna, specifically taking the Crone's Contentment fast travel station, as this is the closest one to where we are going to be farming. From there, you just run on through the caves until you hit the save station right before the train section, which is where we're going to be resetting from. From there, you're going to do a little bit of backtracking, running back through those caves and straight across, where you'll find a path blocked off by a core wall that you can smash through. And behind that, you will find Electrocore, who can drop you the frequency. The frequency is a legendary Maliwan shotgun able to roll with any 2 of the 5 elements, and is able to roll with 12 or 13 projectiles for 1 ammo per shot, or a whopping 24 projectiles for 2 ammo per shot. After a brief charge up time, the frequency will shoot out a shockwave projectile before eventually breaking up into all those multiple pellets. Killing an enemy with the frequency will stack a buff up to 5 times, each stack lasting about 14 seconds. Each stack will add an extra burst round to the frequency, and additionally will increase the reload speed. These stacks are lost when entering Fight for Your Life or swapping weapons. So to start out, I want to talk about my theory as to why I think that this gun really is not popular, and specifically why I myself, for the longest time until making this video, had no idea that this was actually good. So thank you to this lovely commenter who actually brought this to my attention, because I probably would have pushed this off for quite a little bit longer if it wasn't for that. Which, by the way, thank you guys so much for the recommendations. They do definitely help out a lot with making these videos. But the big theme here with the frequency is first impressions, and the first impressions of this gun are absolute fucking dog shit. If you just pick up this gun and give it a go, you're gonna feel really dissatisfied and like you're just not doing something right, and it's because you aren't. This gun has a lot of weird things happening with it that aren't really super apparent right off the bat, especially not just with the stacking gimmick, but with just how the projectile splits. This gun has a very awkward sweet spot that you can hit, where you can hit both the shockwave and all of the projectiles after they split on the same enemy. Granted, they need to have kind of a big hitbox for this, but if you're able to do it, it fucking slaps hard as shit even without any stacks. But that's the other issue, is that stacks are very important, and building up that burst fire is incredibly powerful. Without any stacks, it can be pretty difficult, especially against tankier enemies, to start building up these stacks. And as most people's first impressions with a gun is picking it up, shooting it a couple times at an enemy, and being like, this is shit, or oh my god, this is great, not many people are gonna see that this thing actually fucking shreds when it has stacks. So having a stacking mechanic alongside a really awkward projectile mechanic makes for a gun that is not at all friendly to anyone who doesn't know what the hell exactly that it is doing. But as I'm sure you've been able to tell through the way I've been talking about this gun, this thing's fucking insane. Again, it has a learning curve. You kind of have to get used to the distance you want to play around. You kind of have to understand that you're playing around these stacks. But once you get the hang of it, this thing fucking shreds. Now let's talk about this pellet count first, because this is the biggest fucking thing about this gun. For comparison, a max pellet count Jacob's Stagecoach has 25 pellets for 3 ammo. This can roll only 1 less pellet for only 2 ammo cost, and is way easier to get than a god rolled Jacob's Stagecoach. That alone is fucking insane, but not only is it cheaper and a very similar pellet count, it's elemental, and it can stack up a burst fire to it, and obviously isn't just a one-shot reload. The only downsides compared to that Jacobs is that with the Jacobs, it's much more streamlined to use. You don't have to play around this goofy distance, and there's no charge up time. So I'm not saying this replaces a Jacobs shotgun, I'm just putting the comparison there so that you can understand exactly what this thing can do. Returning to this sweet spot though, this definitely is a bit of a con to the gun overall, as it's actually a pretty decently long distance before the split happens, so you do have to play pretty far away from enemies. The other downside is that while it is only 2 ammo per shot, and it's honestly not that bad ammo consumption wise, with more stacks, that burst fire definitely starts chewing through ammo a decent bit quicker than it otherwise would be. So while this is definitely a bit of a downside as well, it is definitely still a fully usable weapon. Back to what's good about this gun though, unlike other stacking weapons, this weapon does not need to deal the final hit of damage itself. This means that not only can it be used very effectively with bonus elements, but it absolutely fucking ruins Onamaro with the high AoE of Ties That Bind and the ability to gain a shit ton of stacks with it very quickly and very easily. Not only that, but just holding enemies in place with phase graphs means that you can really manage that sweet spot incredibly incredibly effectively for those projectile hits. It is worth keeping in mind though, using this with Amara, you do not want to use Heavy Rain as that has a bit of an inverse synergy with this projectile, making it split way further away, which unfortunately I did make the mistake of using while recording for this video. It's not just Amara that's strong with this weapon though. Flak feels fucking unfair with this amount of projectiles. Anything hit by this thing is just gonna get Megavored into oblivion. But if Flak feels unfair with this amount of projectiles, Mose needs to take a fucking vacation to Guantanamo Bay. The frequency is a war crime of short fuse procs. Not only that, but it's Mose, so she benefits the absolute most of this having access to all the elements because Mose has very limited access to bonus elements. And she can by far keep up with the ammo consumption of this thing better than any other character, heavily aided to by all those short fuse procs. And all of those just constantly proccing Means of Destruction. Zane is the only character that doesn't feel like this gun was just in some way made for him, however it is still a very solid option and it's able to do some very funny shit with Eraser. Just having all those projectiles get the bonus damage from it. The frequency is wild. I totally understand why it's unpopular though. Just picking it up and giving it a go, it really doesn't feel too special, especially if you end up getting a lower pellet count roll, which you definitely want that 24 pellet count. But hell, even after you understand it and get it going, the minigame of keeping it stacked can definitely be incredibly annoying, especially with how much weaker it feels when it doesn't have stacks. But holy fuck, this thing can definitely also be very fun and is definitely one of my new favorites. I highly recommend you pick one up and give it a go. But that's gonna do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, definitely consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, all of that. Down in the description will be a link to my Twitch channel where I will be live right after this video goes up, and below that is a link to my Discord server where you can come and join and hang out. But with that all being said, I hope to see you guys in the next one.